I will also add, however, that the uber wealthy throughout history have known the secrets of art. They've known about the vibratory rate, the divinity of creation. I'm here to let you know that at ferrarilover.bigcartel.com, I have my art for sale. I'm going to be having, I think right now I'm sold out of ultra limited edition transparent clear vinyl, the Cold Prince King, and then I have t-shirt designs and long sleeve shirts, hats for Ferrari Bones, Dominion Ferrari Bones, clothing, which is my brand of Ferrari Lover Band merch. And yeah, I haven't reached a point in my career yet where I'm really living comfortably or able to really live at all off of revenue from my art, which has taken me like decades. I feel like I'm like one of those specialist doctors who just finally got out of school. Uh, and I won't get into a whole story, but let's just say I know a lot about the medical profession, oddly enough. Like it's almost like VH1 behind the music. Uh, High-end specialist doctors behind the job. But I digress, which is that, it would be amazing for me to start being able to like support myself more off of my art. And the ultra rich already spend obscene amounts of money. Like I started making these as a kid. I used to collect baseball cards, but I also have a fascination I moved on to surf cards. I have a fascination with Polaroid and photography. And first, like, I guess the first art I was trained on was DJing, and then photography. I studied photography at Columbia in New York one summer. So, like, there are whole exhibitions of the art world. Like, I was offered an unpaid internship, of course, with Gagosian Gallery when I graduated Vassar. And it's brutal to try to find a job. But for instance, there are artists who would sell like a single Polaroid for like $60,000. Once you get up really, really high in the art world, and Gagosian's one of the most world famous. If you don't know, look up Damien Hirst, for example. Like his diamond skull that he didn't build himself, he commissioned other people to build it, and it sold for 60 million pounds sterling at Sotheby's auction. So once I got to Vassar and I found Art Forum magazine, I realized people were like, I mean, look up Cy Twombly. Clifford Still is one of my favorite painters in basic design. The Clifford Still Museum in Denver is really fascinating. So I've studied digital photography, digital manipulation, like black and white photography, all that stuff. And these are some of my Polaroids, for instance. But I can't, this day and age, like the cost is so intense that us artists need to make money. And none of this came easily to me. And I want to continue to, basically, my calling and what Ferrari Lover is all about is creating beauty out of, I've really been handed a lot of ashes, really. But I personally like beautiful art. And you can see there's a lot of art that has sold that's pretty hideous. If it's like, well, if someone can make, I don't know, what was the Banksy, the graffiti artist, he sold, there's a record like where he sold, if you look at the Banksy documentary online, he created a painting that would self-destruct the minute the auction closed. So someone spent millions of dollars on a Banksy work, and then the painting slipped through a paper shredder right there on live TV and just disintegrated. And that was his comment. And I'm like, I think that's great, dude. But at the same time, artists have been supported by benefactors for years. For example, this cable right here costs $200 just to get incredible, pristine sound for you guys. There's my classic logo of the resurrecting hand, minus the rose in this shot. And yet Spotify pays us 0.0001 cents per stream. I framed my first $70 royalty check royalty deposit, I guess. That's kind of the equivalent these days of framing your first dollar. But I also like Kurt Cobain's distortion pedal. His Boss Distortion sold for over $1 million. And he drew all over his as well. But I don't just draw on mine, I actually make modifications to the electronics, which is how I stay ahead. And I just, no matter what, like I've lived through a lot of hell in my life. And that's not to say that I'm not blessed, but I guess if there is a benefit to it, I'm the real legit goth. Like I've lived in gnarly basement apartments that were not to code. I've had fucking crazy stalkers and like I know what it's like to sleep in my car. And yet at the same time, as I said in another video, like, you know, I have like royal blood on both sides. So it's just it's an interesting dichotomy, and there's no one out there really pushing the boundaries the way I am, is in the sense of like I'm real. Uh there are times in my life, and I'll be honest, like where a church on Crenshaw Boulevard, people gave me more love there than anyone in my family. And luckily I'm close with my dad to this day, but let's just put it this way, I came by being a goth, honestly, and I'm legit goth, and I make beauty out of it instead of like just sitting there and be like it's so, I always know when someone's a poser when they just romance horror movies all the time and sit there doing all this bullshit. Like if you've actually lived through hell and you have street smarts and you know what it's like to drive around like Signal Hill and Long Beach at fucking 2 o'clock in the morning, or then you would not be glorifying horror movies. So anyway, these are works of art, and I make beauty out of a lot of hell that I went through, and I make beauty out of it when I've had nothing. So you can buy my Dominion Ferrari Bones designs at ferrarilover.bigcartel.com. I think there's a handful of CDRs, and there's some things on eBay currently. And I don't know what Bandcamp is doing with their weird situation, but I do have Lace of Spades finally released a beautiful, pure, translucent black label, white crystal vinyl, Cold Prince King Dream State. But it's quite expensive because I'm having to have them made in very small amounts. And if you think about it, imagine having in your hand a CDR where not only all the music, all the words, and all the production and everything was made by me, but I personally burned it to disc. Like there's a divine vibratory rate to that music with my handwriting putting on the track listing, and you can see the dust there because I uh, worked hard my whole life. And I also did a lot of selfless service or like volunteer work when I was living as a monk in Europe and then going to school. It's not all fancy glamorousness, but yeah, I hope there are some people out there like the ultra wealthy. It's not a secret. They know that music carries a divine vibratory rate. That's why they try to control people through music. And these days you can't get real, pure, unadulterated music without supporting an artist similar to me. And I'm able to do what I'm able to do because of my situation, but it was not easy to get here. However, uh, I know what it's like to count every single dollar. I mean, there's a lot of times where I've gone without a lot of other things just to buy gear, whatever it is. So, and not just whatever it is. I mean, these are sacred machines. So imagine holding a CD, you know, burned by Nirvana, but at the time it was just cassettes. I am going to be making some cassettes as well. That all these companies, all they want to do is make money off of art, and it's, the irony is the most divine, sacred thing in the world, which is high art, is not really given monetary value, when in reality, it is the most valuable thing there is. I will also add, however, that the uber wealthy throughout history have known the secrets of art. They've known about the vibratory rate, the divinity of creation, every little detail down to the hand-scrawled letters of my lingerie skateboards company stickers to the tools that I use that are hand-forged in Japan. Royalty throughout the ages, they all know the secret. You know, I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but art is the supernatural. And so that's why they've built a society that doesn't value art, when in reality, the wealthiest of the wealthy are actually hoarders of high art, and they spend money like it's air, essentially, on whatever they can. And if you saw the objects that have been purchased for obscene amounts of money, I mean, you could house hundreds of thousands of people a year alone on what the amount of art, fine finishes that are purchased by billionaires. There is no ethical way to become a billionaire, by the way. But like I said, I mean, I grew up around fine jewelry. My ancestors were the jewelers to the Tsar in Russia and fled to Latvia. So my great-great-grandfather invented and patented a lot of, like, every piece of jewelry you see at Van Cleef & Arpels or Cartier. Chances are the diamonds are set with a proprietary setting that was trademarked by my ancestors on one side. And yet at the same time, I had, like, hardworking, coming from nothing. That's the other thing. Like, it may be California old money on one side of my family, but I was raised with a very kind of pretty bare bones lifestyle. I went through a lot of really brutal, difficult things, and I know the value of $1 is an understatement. So, I mean, to this day, if I want to buy a piece of gear, I'm making sacrifices in other areas, and I'm incredibly grateful to get to do what I want to do. But I think it's about time that people start supporting me. If you're an actual fan, take a risk and support my art. You will not be disappointed, and you will probably be mind blown at just how valuable, or if it's not my art, it's other artists, but I guess I'm biased. I'm tired of struggling, I'm tired of being exhausted, and it's time for people to, if they spend money on a boring, plain, I mean, the things that people buy, it's like my t-shirts are works of art, and someone will buy some shitty blank and put some lame logo on it and just rake in the money. That's not art. That's just trend-setting bullshit. So if you're a real one, and if you can't afford it, I hope someday you can, because art is sacred, especially my art.